Hello, everyone. Today's date is May 24, 2026. We are having a strategic meeting for the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation elections that we are planning to start registration this year. We are the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. We are proposing a third government for the people of Palestine and Israel together, 15.5 million. That includes the area of Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel. 15.5 million people to have a federal government with a legislative branch with 300 parliament members, an executive branch with a president and vice president, and a judicial branch with Palestinian and Israeli judges. A government that would be independent and separate from the Israeli and the Palestinian government. Our constitution is available in 3 languages at ipconfederation.org. If you click at our website, you'll be able to read the Constitution and in 3 languages, and you'll be able to see the preamble to the Constitution and the makeup of each legislative, of the legislative branch, of the executive branch, and the judicial branch. It's a very interesting reading, and I encourage you to read the Constitution. Like I said, it's available in Arabic, Hebrew, and English. On June 14, we'll have a simulation, and in the simulation we will have Avi Shilon, who is an Israeli historian, author, and political analyst known for his work on modern Israeli history, leadership, and ideological movements. And we will have with him Harley Schlanger, who is an American political analyst, a speaker, and a writer known as a spokesperson for the Lyndon LaRouche movement. Today, we are having a strategic meeting on federal election implementation in Israel-Palestine, in the entire area of Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. With 15.5 million people, we'll have an opportunity to elect a democracy, to elect a federal government that separates between government and religion, that creates equality between Palestinians and Israelis, regardless of religion, ethnicity, or nationality. So this is a meeting in which we are asking you to ask a lot of questions. This meeting is intended to be interactive. We encourage all participants to ask difficult questions, identify gaps, and challenge assumptions in the election plan so that together we can strengthen the legitimacy, fairness, and credibility of the IPC election. So this is not just a lecture. We are asking you to ask questions. Just whenever you see a slide that triggers your interest, that triggers a question mark, please ask, because we need as many ideas, as many questions as possible in order to create the best possible election for the people of Israel and Palestine. You are our sounding boards, so please help us. Ask as many questions. Don't be shy. There is no question that doesn't make sense. All questions make sense, and all questions will help us understand what we are doing wrong or what we need to do in order to improve. So please ask as many questions throughout the meeting today. And when you see a slide, please ask a question if it brings some thoughts into your mind. So this is our vision. And I'll ask Libby, would you be so kind as to read this vision of the IPC?
Sure. Moving forward towards an election in Israel and Palestine. We believe Israelis and Palestinians must live together and in peace in a democratic, equal, and open society with mutual respect, freedom of expression, and freedom of religion. We believe that the historic connection of both people to the land of Israel and Palestine is an integral part of their identity and must be respected. Our goal is to create a mutual democratic government for the people of Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. We believe that this government should be independent and separate from the Israeli and Palestinian governments. We do not wish to dismantle the Israeli or Palestinian governments, but rather work in conjunction with those governments to facilitate peace and prosperity. We believe that the legitimate needs of Israelis and Palestinians would be advanced and protected by the Constitution published on www.ipconfederation.org.
This Constitution has been in the work for the last 25 years. We have conducted many simulations, both online and in person, and those simulations have helped us create the Constitution. We saw what needs to be done, what the problems are, and we constantly amended the Constitution in order to deal with the issues that have been coming up throughout those meetings and simulations. The IPC federal government key benefit is to create meaningful integration by bringing together Israelis and Palestinians who are ready to move beyond the limitations of their current governments and work towards a shared future. There is a significant part of the Israeli and the Palestinian societies that are ready to move together, that they understand that their governments are incapable of giving them peace or security. And they understand that the only way to move forward and to live normal life is to work together. So those Israelis and those Palestinians that understand that their governments are incapable of giving them peace will unite together in this election to create a federal government. They will establish a joint democratic election that foster a mutual recognition, shared ownership, and unified political process. They understand that there is no exclusivity to the land, and in fact, it's a blessing to live together, that no one exclusively owns the land, that we Palestinians and Israelis can own it together and enjoy it together without constant violence. The federal government that we are proposing will be legitimate because it will be elected by the people of Israel and Palestine together. The people of Israel and Palestine will give it legitimacy, but will also demand that the parliament, the elected officials that will be elected, will act in their interest. So they will have legitimacy and responsibility to move forward and to come up with the best legislation, the best ideas for the people themselves, the people of Israel and Palestine. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this implementation?
All right. After years of conducting meetings, seminars, debates, and simulations, during which a constitution was created, we are now moving forward to establish online elections through which the people of Israel and Palestine will be able to choose a mutual secular government of their own to represent and advance their interests. The people of Israel and Palestine will elect 300 members of parliament, as well as a president and vice president for the Confederation.
Thank you. Like I said, if you have any questions, please ask them at any time during this presentation. It's going to be a short presentation. So we are going to have a portal created. We are now in a very advanced stages of discussion. We already selected an election company. We're not at liberty to disclose the name of the election company yet because we still need to have some final arrangements, including financial arrangements. And so until we sign a contract with them, which I hope will be in the next 2 weeks, we can announce the name of the company. There actually are two companies, but one would be the responsible for the portal working together with another company. The people living with the geographic areas commonly known as the West Bank, Gaza, and the State of Israel will be able to vote through a dedicated online portal available in Arabic, Hebrew, and English. Libby, would you be so kind as to read the 300 district vision?
Okay. We are creating 300 equal and contiguous electoral districts, each consisting of approximately 52,000 people, designed not to separate populations, but to integrate them. Using available data from the Israeli and Palestinian Bureaus of Statistics, along with other reliable sources, each district will include a balanced mix of communities and will be drawn to embed cooperation and moderation directly into the political system. The districts will be published online and made available for public viewing.
So currently we are working on those 300 districts. We came to a formula to create the 300 districts. We are obtaining the information from the Israeli and the Palestinian Bureau of Statistics, also possibly from the World Bank and other private organizations. But we believe that we have sufficient information to cover the entire area of Israel and the West Bank and Gaza. Every city, every village, every town or localities will be covered. In order to be a voter, a person must be at least 18 years old and a citizen and resident of Israel or Palestine. That's to be a voter. In order to be a candidate for parliament, a person must be at least 21 years old and have been a citizen and a resident of Israel or Palestine for at least 180 days. That's 6 months. And in order to be a candidate for president and vice president. Really, people only would put their name to be candidates for president because the election will be for president only. The person who received the most votes will be president. The person who received the second number of votes of the other nationality will be vice president. But the people on the ballot, they will see an election for president only. A candidate for president must be at least 35 years old and have been a citizen and a resident of Israel or Palestine for at least 180 days. Dashboard. We will have a live public dashboard that will display all registered candidates by districts for the presidency throughout the registration and the election period. So once a person signs himself up to be a candidate, he will appear in the dashboard. The dashboard will include the type of race, in other words, whether it's for president or for parliament. The dashboard will have a map of all the districts, and the dashboard will display the candidates for parliament in each and every district. After the election is concluded, the dashboard will publish the full results, including elected parliament members in each district and the president and vice president that would be elected. Yes, George, what's your question?
Yeah, thank you. So in each district, if I understand correctly, if 10 people want to be candidates, then the only requirement is residency and citizenship
For what?
to be a candidate. You have
For
to be a
parliament or
citizen
for
and a
president?
resident, correct? Both?
In order to be a candidate for parliament, a person will have to be 21 years old and have been a citizen and resident of Israel or Palestine for at least 180 days. And a candidate for president.
Okay, I got that. So
those are the
theoretical
requirements.
case, if 10 people want to sign up in a riding, then 10 people will sign up as long as they meet these criteria.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So this is the estimated timeline. We anticipate the completion of the portal to be by September 30th of this year. The portal will be completed by September 30th of 2026. This is an estimate. Keep in mind, it's an estimate. It could be several weeks off, but that's the estimate at this time. After the portal is completed, we will have voter registration that will last from October 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2027. People will be able to register to be voters. That's a year and 3 months. Candidates will be able to register for an entire year from October 1st, 2026 to September 30th, 2027. And the election period itself will start from October 1st, 2027 to December 31st, 2027. So here is a chart of the IPC election. The implementation is in the pink. That's the first 4 months. The voter registration period is in green. That's 15 months. So after the implementation, we will have 15 months of voter registration. The candidate registration is in the blue, and that's 12 months. And the online voting period is 3 months, and that's in the brown. So as you can see, the brown and the green are at the same time. That means that during the election, people would still be able to register to vote. And they will be able to vote throughout the time from of the green, which includes the brown. During the entire time, the portal will have several features that would enable continuous communication between the IPC voters and candidates, including the ability to contact specific segments of voters and candidates. Such communication may include, for example, outreach to voters within districts, voters who have not yet voted, or candidates participating in specific districts or electoral races. So this may be a little confusing, but basically it means that the IPC will be able to contact voters. Let's say, for example, district number 27, we noticed that there are very few voters. We will be able to send communications to that district and encourage people to vote and to encourage people to act as candidates. In addition, we will have a founding committee, and that founding committee will be created before the election, during the election, and after the election. The founding committee will draw the 300 electoral district, will be responsible for the 300 electoral district. It will set the time, place, and method of the first election. It will determine how and when the first parliament convenes after the election. It will establish the initial legislative procedure and voting system, and it will enter into and manage pre-constitution obligation binding on the Confederation and decide whether to extend election period if needed. We will be able to extend the election period if needed. In other words, let's say one particular district has not elected a parliament member, we will be able to extend the election period for that particular district or for the entire area, including the president and the vice president. And we will also be able to provide a runoff election between leading candidates. Each candidate will have to affirm and accept these requirements. Libby, would you be so kind as to read these candidates' affirmation?
I have read the Constitution of the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. I accept the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation Constitution. I do not belong to any other government or military organization. I am willing to publicly declare that I will relinquish all allegiance, oaths, or loyalty to any government, military, or political organization other than the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. I recognize Israelis and Palestinians as equal peoples. I am committed to the separation of religion and government within the Confederation. My sole purpose in joining the Confederation government is to help make peace.
So each candidate will have to accept these affirmations. If a person is not willing to accept these affirmations, he will not be able to become a candidate or to be elected. And once they are elected, they will have to swear an allegiance to the Constitution that basically consists of the similar affirmations. Nasir, go ahead.
Joseph, can you go back to that last slide? There was two issues. So, for example, when you say that I do not belong to any government or military organization, would that include people who are in the reserves, people, for example, who work for the security services, like for example, in the Palestinian Authority, that they work in the security services. Because
I do not know any government or military organization. So if it's a security,
so what I'm saying is, like, if we have people who are in the army, for example, from the age of 18 to 21, does this disqualify them?
Well, that would be a question to the founding committee. They will have to specifically state who do they belong to, and the founding committee will decide
But
what
it's
is the
specific.
nature of that organization.
But
Is
it's
it,
specifically saying I don't belong to any other government or military organization. So therefore, if you're technically in the Israeli army, or if you're in the, for example, security forces, that disqualifies you from.
if you are part of the Israeli army, you cannot be a candidate
Okay,
for parliament.
I got you. The other question is
No.
the last point. The sole purpose of joining the Confederation government is to help make peace. Now, that should be definitely a goal. However, the purpose is working to provide good governance or representative governments or a justice government. I mean, making peace is the sole purpose. There's an issue here because government has more functions than just wanting to create peace.
Okay, so what do you suggest?
Well, I mean, if you're saying that the sole purpose, or you can say like maybe the main purpose is to,
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
yeah, but if you're saying the sole purpose is to create peace, but the purpose is also to have a representative government of the people of Israel and Palestine. That's representative, that protects their rights and freedoms and etc.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Why don't you send me
Sure.
by email, how do you think this could be
Okay.
changed, and we'll take care of that.
Got it.
Shlomo.
I like Nasir, I find a big problem with loyalty. First of all, every citizen in Israel is also part of the army, whether he likes it or not, and it has loyalty to Israel. And so I don't see how you can do it. In my opinion, if I would just eliminate the whole thing. I would just say, on the contrary, that this does not exclude loyalties to other, countries, institutions, because basically what we have a movement that
Well,
wants
wait,
to be.
you realize that this is a candidate affirmation? It's not for voters.
Yeah, it's not.
Someone that is in the army or in the military can still vote. We are talking about a candidate.
Yeah, this would be for the candidates, Shlomo. That you see the difference?
Yeah, I see the difference, but yeah, I wonder. So still, if you want Israelis to participate in and not to be loyal to Israel, that will be a problem and become somebody, a representative here. That means that disloyalty to Israel, and that's a little tricky. Yeah, so I
This
just
is an independent government of the government of Israel or Palestine. A person cannot have dual loyalties to the Israeli and or the Palestinian government and the federal government.
So people with dual citizenship, for example, in Israel, they have American and Israeli citizenships.
Right.
So they are not disloyal to any of them. Their loyalty is not being questioned for some reason. Maybe it should, but I predict an obstacle here. I mean,
Shlomo, whenever you are elected to be an Israeli parliament member, you have to swear allegiance to the Israeli government. If you are elected to be in the Palestinian, you have to swear allegiance to the Palestinian government. If you are elected to the federal government, you have to swear allegiance to the federal government and renounce your allegiance to any other government. That's normal with any government. I don't know why you are.
Because I know what will happen if you have Israelis who will take this very courageous step and say, yes, I'm not loyal to Israel. I'm not loyal to Israel. I'm loyal to this.
It doesn't say not to Israel. It says, I accept, read it specifically. I do not belong to any other government or military organization.
Okay, that's okay. That's
I am
okay.
willing to publicly declare that I will relinquish all allegiance, oath, or loyalty to any government, military, or political organization other than the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation.
Okay, think about. Okay, so who is the Israeli who would agree to take it and take the risk? Because at that point he becomes a traitor.
In your eyes, but that's
Not
not
in
true.
not in my eyes, but in everybody in Israelis in Israeli eyes. Okay. Let us skip
Look,
it now.
we want committed people, not people that have dual commitment. Okay? Committed people. We don't want to have as many candidates as possible. We want to have quality candidates, candidates that understand their responsibility.
So let's say you're an Israeli, you live in Israel, and you say, okay, I'm loyal to this, and I'm absolutely not loyal to Israel. Is this and that's
That's
okay.
not
Maybe that's okay. I don't know. It's just will be will need some courage.
okay. Again, this is candidate affirmation. It's not an affirmation to be a citizen of Israel or a citizen of Palestine. This is for candidates. If you want to be a candidate of the federal government, you have to swear allegiance to the federal government. That's common in every government, including the American government, including any other government. All right, let's go on. Election results announcement. Alan, go ahead, ask your question. Alan?
I think he walked away.
Okay.
Oh, there he goes.
Here he is.
I have a question.
Yeah, George.
Thank you. Excuse me, I've been away for a few weeks, so excuse me if this has been addressed. But do you have an election commission which will assure a fair election?
Yes.
Okay, good, excellent. What about financing limits for candidates?
I'm
So
sorry?
to assure that a billionaire class can't buy the election as they do in the United States?
It's not in the Constitution and it's not part of the requirements.
Well, I'm suggesting you might need it because all the money there is in Israeli hands, and God knows all the money that will be flocking in. You will need some sort of, to assure a fair election, you will need some sort of financing controls because let's look at the US, very well. The billionaire class owns the politicians.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a huge point, I think.
In fact,
Let's talk to Maisar Al-Samadi.
yeah, by the way, I agree about it, and I'm afraid that they will buy the election company. You want to to pay them 100,000, they will give him $10 million. So, this is a risk.
Okay, so there's always risks. We do not act based on every possible fear that could happen. We have done a lot of due diligence with this company. They are committed to a democracy, and we have to have trust in what they have presented us with. and we do trust them. And what could they, even if they want to, what would they be able to do?
Oh, computers? Is it
I
difficult?
know, what would they be able to do? I'm not asking how. I'm asking
They
what
can
would
rig
they
the
be able to?
elections. They can rig the elections if they want to. But
I
yeah,
know. How would they rig the election?
oh, it's all programs, right? So it is so simple to hack today, to hack the program, to change it, to let.
Well, this company assured us that the security that they have is equivalent to security that credit card companies have, that banks have, that it would be difficult to hack. And even if someone does hack, it would be for a maybe few hours, but not the entire 15 months we're talking about.
Joseph, will you think about putting financing limits on candidates?
I'll have to ask the election committee. I personally, I do not see that as a risk because we have a system of 300 parliament members. These areas are mixed areas, Palestinians and Israelis together in a lot of those areas. And it's not similar to what we have in America, where America is such a powerful country that there are economic interests that want to influence the economy through the election. This is an area that is mostly poor, with small districts. I just don't see the benefit of someone spending millions of dollars to have a certain candidate elected. But that's my impression.
If you don't
Let's go.
have protections, the election will be stolen. For sure.
Okay. I mean, that's my impression.
Okay.
Mysar.
Yes, thank you, Joseph. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I have 3 or 4 questions, if I may. The first one is, will there be a campaign that is being envisioned to familiarize Israeli and Palestinian public with this project regarding the election?
Yes.
There will be, yeah? And this will be
Well,
coordinated.
there will be. You hit the nail on the head. This is the most important part,
Right.
is to familiarize the people of Palestine and Israel of this election. That's the most important part as far as I am concerned. And this is why we have 15 months for people to register. This is why we have 3 months of an election. And in my opinion, if this thing fails, it's not because any other reason other than the fact that we have not publicized it enough.
Exactly, because not many people know about this whole
Yes,
project to
yeah,
start
no,
with,
very few, very few.
right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
Alan.
The second question I have is who will vet the qualifications of the candidates? Would that be the election committee?
No, we do not pre-qualify the candidates. The candidates, if they accept the affirmation, and if they meet the age requirement and the citizenship requirements, we are not here to judge whether they are the candidates will also have to put their statements why they want to be candidates, and it will be up to the voters to decide whether to vote for them or not. It's not going to be for us to decide whether they are qualified or not.
So there will be no vetting at all.
No, no.
Just to make sure that they qualify in terms of age, in terms of whatever else that's going to be stipulated.
Okay. This is one of the things that the election committee will have. We will be able to see who the candidates are, and according to the election rules, the election committee will be able to vote on whether to remove a candidate if, in our opinion, he or she does not meet the spirit of the Constitution.
So it is the election committee who would do the
Yeah,
vetting.
the elected
Okay.
committee will be functioning throughout the whole time.
Okay.
And
My third-
if a candidate does not meet the spirit of the election, then we will take a vote on whether to unilaterally remove him or her.
Okay, thank you for that. The third question is, what kind of a voting system are we envisioning here? Is it the first past the post, or is it a 50% plus one requirement?
Can you repeat the question, please?
What kind of voting system are we going to be following? Would that be the first past the post, regardless of what percentage that individual successful candidate gets, or will it be, will we require 50% plus one of the voters in the
So
you know,
each
area?
voter will be able to vote in his or her district for two ballots. They'll have two items on the ballot. The first thing is president and vice president, so that would be nationwide. And the second would be for parliament in his district. And whoever gets the most votes in that district will be elected for parliament, and whoever gets the most votes for president and vice president in the nationwide election will be president, and the person who gets the second number of votes will be vice president in the entire area, and they will rotate in 2 years. I hope I answered your question.
Oh, yeah, you did that. That's what I call first past the post. Whoever gets the most
Yeah.
votes
We
gets elected.
I am planning to have, once we sign with the election company, I'm planning to have a representative from the election company, and a lot of the technical issues, including security and the mechanism of the votes, will be answered by them. But we had a meeting with them, actually with technical people from our side, asking them questions as well. And I am satisfied that this is a good company that would be able to conduct the election. Alan, do you have a question?
Yeah,
Sorry,
well,
my last,
I have
my
several
last- my-
questions actually.
my last question,
On the
if I may.
last, is there somebody else talking on the last question, last issue raised here? Declare relinquish any allegiance, oath, loyalty to any government. That seems to me to say that I would not vote in the Israeli or in the Palestinian national elections. That if I vote in either of those national elections, I'm showing some loyalty, allegiance, engagement with those governments. So I would say that you should be able to be permitted to vote in the national elections of Israel or Palestine besides being able to vote in the Confederation? So that is
Yeah.
one
But
question.
again, Alan, he mentioned that this is for the candidate, not the citizens or the people who vote. So you could still vote for both in your respective government, whether it be Israeli, Palestinian, but this is for the candidate.
So this is only for the candidates.
Correct. You see, that's why it says candidates affirmation. So this is
So
what
it's not,
candidates need to affirm, not to participate in the election.
okay. So if you are a
Exactly. So if you live in Tel
if you're a
Aviv, you can vote.
representative, if
If you
you're
live in Tel Aviv, you can vote for your Knesset member. You can vote for your prime minister. If you live in Ramallah, you can vote for, if we ever have elections, you can vote for your candidate, your president, and also for the Confederation.
yeah, but if you are a candidate for a Knesset or a member of the Knesset, you cannot vote.
Correct. If you're yes.
Okay. The other question I have that I've pressed on many occasions, as a government of the Palestinian and Israeli people, restriction to residence is a great problem because the right of return is an essential question in the development of the Palestinian national struggle. And so Palestinians who are refused residence because they've been driven out or however are not permitted to return should have some advisory, some position, some opportunity to participate in this electoral and competitive process in an advisory way. And I would say the same should apply to Jews who have an allegiance in some way to Israel, though do not live there for whatever reasons. So that seems an important question, that the right of return has to be on the political agenda, and if so, those who would be seeking return should have some representation or acknowledgement. And a similar question, the Golan Heights, which are part of now so-called Israel, are illegally incorporated and belong to another country if that is ever decided. So how does that part of the current Israel, but improperly designated, get recognized? So Golan Heights, non-resident participation are two questions on my mind. Thanks.
Well, as to your first question, this government is for the people of Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. It's not a Palestinian government. It's not an Israeli government. If the Israeli government wants to give the Jews around the world and Israelis around the world the right to vote, they can do so. If the Palestinian wants to give the Palestinians around the world an opportunity to vote, they can do so. This is not an Israeli or a Palestinian government. This is a government for the people of Palestine and Israel, and it makes it would be extremely difficult, even if we wanted to include Palestinians and Israelis in the diaspora, to include them in the election. In order to qualify to be a voter or a parliament member, you have to have Israeli or Palestinian citizenship, and you have to be a resident of Palestine or Israel. With regard to the Golan Heights, all the people that reside in the Golan Heights are included, including Jews, Druze, those that were Syrian citizens that now have Israeli or Palestinian citizenship.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's go on. So the election results. Oh, Maysar, do you have another question?
We have Daniel Wolf and Maysar. Maysar, you have your hand up. So I'm assuming you have another question, but maybe you want to go to
I
Daniel.
do.
Okay, can you do Maysar and then go to Daniel?
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I had one last question, was considering the length of period during which election will be held as 3 months of the actual voting period? I mean, will an individual be able to change their vote after they cast their first vote?
Yes. Once
That's something
a person is, yeah, that's a good question. They will be able to change their vote until the end of the election. Yes.
okay, that should be clarified as well. Thank you. That's all I had.
Daniel?
So I'm, as I told you, Joseph, I'm prepared to comment. I don't have a question per se. That's not my role. I don't see it as my role. But I've been taking notes and I'll continue taking notes. At some point, as I told you, my doctoral work was in the area of election construction,
Right.
election systems, proportional representation, the first past the post stuff, all of those issues, not just how things are constructed, but what the first and second order consequences are of choices, right? So I don't have any preference. I mean, obviously for the United States, I have preferences, but I just want to let you know that I'm taking notes, and at some point, if you want to just take a break, and I can just tell you what my reactions are in terms of my reflections on my knowledge of systems, of election systems and security issues. Because I run an election audit company as well, a tech company. So I have knowledge of a lot of these issues. So just thought
What
I'd
do you
let you know.
think?
Uh-huh.
Actually, that's a good point. I think Daniel, maybe we had a meeting a few weeks ago, and I felt that, and then also sometimes, Joseph runs some things by us. I think that maybe having a separate meeting where we can go over these things, because I think that that expertise is something definitely can help everybody, to do that. I just think that in this particular meeting that it would be a little over, how should I say it? A little too much. But I think that that's something, I mean, Joseph, it's up to you, but I think that that's something in our meetings that we've had separately with Dan and the others. I think that that's an element that we would really, I think, be able to benefit from with Daniel.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I would be happy to do that.
Okay.
That would obviously would be a meeting that I would prepare for.
Sure.
This one here, I didn't prepare for. It was off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking I
Yeah.
could
But
say
these,
everything I need to say in 5 minutes
okay.
in just
Yeah,
terms of
Daniel,
discussion.
that's a really good point. What I suggest you do is send me a private email. I know you sent me one today or yesterday, but I would like to know what elections you conducted or participated in. And once we meet, we're going to have another several meetings with the election company, and we always need experts to help us ask questions. I've had many, many meetings with this company. I think I pretty much exhausted the questions, but there's always something that you don't think about, and that's why, frankly, we have the meeting today. Is to see if we missed something, if we,
Well,
and
I don't mean to be pushy, but I have, about 5 items here that I think you're missing, a fair amount. Not that you're wrong, just that you're not considering some consequences that you need to think about.
I
okay,
would
what
love
are
to
And
they?
hear.
if I relate them, I think it would help you set your agenda for a more thorough meeting later.
Oh, okay. So what are they?
Do you want me to go ahead, or I can just wait and
Yeah,
take a few more
yeah,
notes?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. There's just by way of background for everybody. I run a small tech company. It's an audit tech company called Democracy Counts. We specialize in software and processes that allow Americans at this point to conduct real-time audit checks on their local election machinery. So basically they're audit apps, and so, basically in the construction of these and in the 10 years that I've been doing this, plus I wrote back in 1984, wrote the first country-specific guide for election observers in the world, way before the Carter Center was doing this. So I have a bit of a background in this. I don't run elections, that's a different area of focus. But we have developed election software, which we haven't deployed. We just decided not to go that direction. But when you do that, you have to spend a lot of time thinking about security issues, a lot of time thinking about what your attack surfaces are. And I've sat with experts, with software people. One of our team members is a principal engineer at Microsoft. He deals with Azure, that their high-level cloud system constantly. And so we've spent a lot of time. I mean, I have listened to a lot of software engineers say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And of course, I haven't because I'm not a software person. I'm the architecture person, like this is what we want to achieve. But like, what are the zero-day attack possibilities, right? That's a whole nother subject. And so there are a lot. So now I'll just try to get into the things that have come to mind so far. In terms of online voting is fine for situations where you don't have a great deal at stake, and what is at stake is smaller or is smaller than the resources that would be required to change the outcome. So that basically most elections in the United States, you don't see fraud in the elections because most of them are uncontested or they're very poorly contested. There's just not, the stakes are too low to bother, right? But when you get into an election where the stakes are very high, that's where people say, okay, if we can move the vote 2%, and win the election, for an expenditure of X amount of money, time and energy and possible legal liability, then let's give it a try. So a small minority of elections are highly consequential, and those are the ones that will be attacked. So in a period of time when the stakes are low, I mean, what you're doing with the IPC in order to use online elections to generate publicity, to do marketing, to generate popularity and stuff, I wouldn't expect any government entity or any significant funder of an attack, really engaging in it, in trying to hack it at an early level, at an early time, because they just wouldn't consider it to be a threat. But at the point that they would see their interest to be threatened, then you have to think hard about whether they might take advantage of the attack surfaces. So now the online voting company you're talking about, I know a lot about a lot of them. And I was on a panel, an MIT panel, several years ago with a woman who was the CEO, the founder and CEO of an online voting company. And she had a record of very successful deployment. But she hadn't run elections that were what I would call highly consequential. And so afterwards I was chatting with her and I said, and she had explained all of her security measures that they'd taken, and they were all very good. They were good security measures. But I said, have you considered, X, Y, and Z? And one of them was, for instance, have you controlled for the possibility of somebody with root level passwords in the local area, the people who actually are administering the system in a local area? Have you considered the possibility that they might be the threat, not the external actor being the threat? And she just went almost white. It's like it was a basic assumption of her system that the administrators would always be honest. The only attackers would be on the outside. Now, I like online voting for the convenience. And a lot of people in the United States like the concept of online voting because Democrats like it more than Republicans because of the idea, because so many Democrats, are disengaged, and it's a way of trying to make the barrier to engagement so low. It's like we've lost the concept of the responsibilities of citizenship in the United States. Like you have to actually do something, like it takes more than 2 minutes of your time. So it's nice in that respect. But the security experts, including security experts in the credit card industry, which is like one of the most highly secure industries in the world, there are so many attack surfaces, credit card numbers and amounts and stuff, money purchases, they're stolen all the time. And one credit card industry expert, a security expert that I listened to, said, when a transaction in a credit card situation goes bad, when we suspect something, we know where it originated. We know essentially how people voted with their money, right? And we can get back to them and say, did you authorize this transaction? And they can say yes or no. That happens to me all the time. With voting, with secret votes, you can't do that. You can't get back to the voter and say, did you vote in this way? So online voting has so many attack surfaces that it opens you up to the possibility that a small change in a tight race, would never be verified, or controlled for. So I would say that the company you're working with is probably correct in terms of managing most of these threats, but they can't be correct against, let's say, a medium-sized government, or some actor like that who's able to seriously engage with those attack surfaces. So you have to essentially start from the assumption that the election is going to be hacked. How can we prevent it? And how can we keep the amount of hacking below the level that would change the results? Now, all election observers, including the Carter Center, their judgment about whether an election is legitimate is not whether it was changed or slightly defrauded or whatever. There's always attempts. This is the way the game is played. You want to win. Elections are, and party systems, and and politics. It's a game of hockey. There's a lot of sharp elbows, and this is just simply the way it works. So the question for the Carter Center and other kinds of observers, the OECD and so on, they ask the question, given the amount of irregularities and discrepancies we can see, are those great enough to have caused a change in the outcome? If not, we will consider the election to be legitimate. It's a simple binary question in that respect. Hacking is assumed, fraud is assumed. The question is the scale of it, right?
I agree with everything you're saying. These are issues that the same company they agreed with everything you're saying. So
I'm sure they would. But and during your first period, of voting in order to do marketing, essentially, I think it's totally fine. But when you get to the point where there's actual stakes at risk, I would recommend that you go away from online voting, and you go to paper ballots, because paper ballots can be defrauded as well. They've been, there's probably fraud ever since ancient Greece, right? But with paper ballots, there is a record that you can go back to. So you may not know the name of the voter, but you can pull out his ballot and recount it and say, was this what we expected? So that's number one. Number two, 300 districts. By definition, if you go to 300 districts with one representative in a district, you're talking about either plurality or morality, plurality or first past the post, or majority election, meaning that there's only one representative per district, meaning that, let's say that 60% of the people in the district like candidate X, and candidate Y is very different, and 40% of them like that candidate Y. The person who goes to parliament, is a representative of the 60, not the 40. And that's the situation we've got in the United States. That's the system in England. These are first past the post systems, and it sucks, because it's not representative. Now, in my work, in my doctoral work with Aaron Liphart, he's the world's leader in consociationalism and proportional representation. We did a lot of math. And frankly, the best productive way to set up a representative democracy, is to go with proportional representation, with a multi-member district.
Daniel, do you mind going through them quickly, because taking a lot of the time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
and-
did sort of go. I promised 5 minutes, and I kind of went on. I sort
Yeah.
of have a tendency to do that. Okay, let me try to make it really sum it up tight. Of all the different kinds of proportional representation systems, the Knesset is both the most accurate and best in the sense of accuracy, but the least effective in terms of like effectiveness of governance. The German system with a requirement that you get 5% before you can elect a candidate, provides a barrier to just every little teensy-weensy party, taking a piece of the action.
Yeah, that's
You
called
know,
the threshold.
right. So that's a
Okay,
threshold.
can you move a little quicker, please?
Okay. The president, vice president thing. In the first two elections in the United States, the rule was that the president was the candidate who got the most votes, and the vice president was the person who got the second number of votes. Both of the first two elections, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, they ended up being enemies in office because they were running from different parties and they had different ideologies. And the second election, Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr tied, and they ended up having to have a vote, a separate vote for that. And then the 12th Amendment was passed so as to stop that. Basically, there's separate votes for president and vice president. So you ended up with president and vice president being of one party, instead of having enemies in office. So having it the set up your way might produce that kind of a dynamic. The Those are the most important points.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
those are the most important points. If I were to
with-
prepare, I could go into a lot more
Okay.
depth if you can believe it.
All right. Let me finish this.
Yeah.
Upon conclusion of the election, results for all 300 districts and the presidency will be published on the public dashboard. Each elected member, the president and vice president, will be announced immediately. Vice president election, the vice president will be the presidential candidate who received the second highest number of votes from the other nationality of the winning president. Each one of them has constitutional duties, separate constitutional duties. So with regard to the election itself, if the president is a Palestinian, the vice president will be Israeli presidential candidate who received the most votes, and vice versa. This ensures cross-community representation at the executive level. Shlomo, I'll get to you in a second. So these are the strategic roadmap and milestone. We are creating the 300 electoral district at this time. We need to a final financial arrangement with the election company. Formation of the founding committee needs to be completed. We need to announce a full election timeline, the portal development, voter registration, candidates, registration and election period, secure funding for the project on an ongoing basis. We need to work closely with the election company to ensure full adherence to the Constitution, launch the election portal, and announce the opening of voters and candidates registration. Like I said, this would be in about 4 months from now. Conduct an outreach in Israel and Palestine to encourage participation from voters and candidates. Engage with media continuously throughout the process. That's very important. And announce the start of the election 12 months after the portal is launched, and announce the election results 15 months after the portal is launched, and then swear the candidates into office. So now I'm going to stop the sharing and open up to question.
I have a quick question to Daniel and to everybody here. There was an idea, one of our people, I don't see him anymore. He suggested that basically all the people will vote on everything, meaning you don't need representatives. Every citizen or every person belongs to this movement, has the same equal vote about the major issues. And then we don't need to deal with representative because we are doing it electronically online. I just wonder, maybe we should have to rethink it, and I wonder what Daniel think about it.
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting and tough issue. We are preparing to launch a thing now in the United States we're calling the Middle Majority Movement. And it's a civic association that will allow voters to coordinate, in order to help choose representatives that are truly representative of the middle, not just of the fringes. And we're building a digital platform to enable that. And one of the questions in the building of this, is how much, essentially how much cognitive load is required to participate, in the role of citizenship. And it's big. It's really big. The more important, the more difficult the issue. And conversely, the tinier the issue, the more difficult the cognitive load is. It's the stuff in the middle, where there's not a lot of controversy and it's obvious and everybody understands what the first and second order consequences are. If I'm going to go to the store, do I go by the left street or the right street? That's easy. But if it's really trivial, like there's no information provided because it's a trivial issue, but they add up and aggregate and you end up with something that can affect the system, nobody knows about that. It sort of escapes notice. On the other hand, if you're choosing a president, you're making an important decision about the system, as how the system is structured, or some major policy that might have long-term consequences that, favors the politicians in the short term, but may screw the people in the long term, and everybody has their opinions.
Look, this is not
Yeah.
a discussion about how to do another system. Okay. We have a system. We have been working on this system for years, and this is the system that has been chosen. We do not oppose any other system, but this is not the time that we want to spend on how to have another system. So if you have questions or comments regarding what was presented to you, that would be appreciated. If you want to talk about something else, we're asking please respect the process that is going on right now and not change the subject. Tina.
Oh, I didn't mean to change the subject.
No, I
Shlomo
know.
asked a question, and I was answering it the best way
I
that
didn't
thought
say
I
you
could.
are. I'm just saying
I
that,
did.
yeah.
And I think we should rethink it, maybe with Daniel and
Shlomo,
see.
you can do that. We are not opposed to someone else thinking of another system, but this is the system that we have
Okay.
chosen. We are working on that. We are on the verge of making it happen. And to say, well, why don't we just think about something else? It doesn't make sense at this point. Tina, go ahead.
Yes, I I am interested in the fact that the president and the vice president are going to have separate duties. What separate duties are they going to have?
Okay, the president will be choosing the parliament. He actually, that's a good question. The president will, as I recall from the Constitution, the president will have the duty of choosing the parliament and working with the parliament. The vice president will be in charge of the police force. That's in general. I think both the president and the vice president will have equal say in entering into an agreement with other countries. They will be able to present that. But in general, the president is responsible for the parliament and to appoint the parliament, subject to 55% of the Palestinian and Israelis agreeing to that, and the vice president is in charge of the police.
Could I make a suggestion? I would see the president as being the one who handles the international affairs, and the vice president being concerned about the citizens of your government, and that the parliament could have the ability to stop or void either one of those bad decisions.
They do. They have a veto power, a mutual veto power, and they can overcome the veto by 65%.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? But that goes to the Constitution. You can read the Constitution at ipconfederation.org. That doesn't really go strictly to the election. It goes to the Constitution.
Okay.
Any other questions? Nasir?
No, I'm not hearing it. I don't have a question, and I'm not hearing. I don't see anything in the chat. So
Okay, so like I said, I actually met with the company last Friday, I believe, or actually on Thursday, and we went over issues that, but they seem to be very, very professional. They know what they're doing. They know what the challenges are. I feel very.
there was an issue that came up. Alan mentioned. I didn't want to, because I thought it was going to derail us, but I think the first slide that you presented said something very important. It said the government of Israel and Palestine. And I know that there's an issue, I mean, me being a Palestinian and having a lot of family in diaspora and stuff regarding the representation. However, the thing that I felt was unique was that if you go to the first, I think it was the first page. Was it the first? Second? Let me see. Right there. So we believe Israelis and Palestinians, okay? Because in this sense, this is something that's remarkable, is that we're saying that Israelis Israel, rather than the notion that Israel is the state of the Jewish people around the world. And I think that this is the compromise that this entity has. So it doesn't cease to say that the state of Palestine is the state of Palestinians worldwide, and the state of Israel can, reach out to Jewish people in the diaspora. So I think that this is sort of basically designating that stuff that the PLO, for example, or the Palestine, it represents the Palestinians worldwide, but the Palestinian Authority represents the Palestinians who live on the homeland. So it's not that it senses and negates it, because if we open this up, then we're going to have this problem with, Jews that live in, the United States or South America, etc. And that becomes a problem for many of us, is that Israel, and that's what is the problem, is that Israel is more the nation of Jews around the world than it is for Palestinians who live there and are from there.
No, it is not. Nasir, no, it is not. Israel is Israel, that's it. And
no, they say they are. But what I'm saying, Shlomo, the reality is that Jews that live in the United States have more say about this land than Palestinians who actually live on the land. So, this is just a reality. This is the reality.
Absolutely. No,
yeah.
It has to change. Yeah.
So this is why it's important for the Confederation to focus on that. And again, it doesn't mean that the Palestinian Authority or the PLO or the Palestinian government doesn't have the right to represent its people around the world. And in Israel, setting up, a cultural sort of whatever, attachment for people who've been gone, for ancestors may have left or may have whatever the story is. So I just think that makes it, that what Alan was saying is that we open up those gates when we do that, because then that says that people that, like I know people who suddenly just came here 2 months ago, and they're suddenly like they've been here for 4,000 or 5,000 years. I don't get that, but that's what's happening,
Yeah, it is huge
go ahead,
injustice. Huge injustice, yeah.
Libby?
I'm kind of, this is switching off the subject that was just being presented, so I'm backtracking a little bit, if that's okay. I just wanted to ask about the process of getting things started in Israel and Palestine and finding candidates and reaching out to people. Will there be a group over there? Will there be a committee working over there announcing this? And it made me think of all the grassroots groups. You know, last a couple weeks ago we had Suleiman on, and he's very well known in the Palestinian community and was one of the founders of Combatants for Peace, which is a highly recognized and well thought of organization. And there are many others like that. And I'm wondering if there's a way of tapping into those groups as a beginning point of looking for the best possible candidates, people who already are working towards the kind of government we're talking about, who are already trying to make it happen at a very grassroots level, that now could be part of this and help us launch it into a much more productive professional campaign by pulling from really thousands of grassroots workers who know what this is about, and they want the kind of future we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. We have several ways to communicate with individuals that we consider to be possibly candidates. Some of them, when we had the election in 2012, did run before. And I'm getting a lot of inquiries from mostly Palestinians that are interested in running, that they understand the concept, and they are anxiously waiting to be able to register. Not only Suleiman, but there are many, many others. Those people will be the ambassadors in Israel and Palestine, because the plan is to work with people on an individual basis and to ask them to run, and then to ask them to, and that's another feature which I forgot. Once a person is running or voting, he or she will be able to send messages to his friends and his family to register as well, and to register and to support him or her as a candidate. This is why we have 12 months of registration and 15 months of an election. We hope that those people that are running and those people that are registering will be the ambassadors in Israel, Palestine, to encourage others to join. And we have a pretty good list of people also on our website and on the WhatsApp group and other, social media. I am hoping that the company that would be doing the dashboard is not the same company, I think, that would do the election. They're working together. But the dashboard part, from what I understand, will be created by an American company. The election will be created by a European company, and they are working together. I have seen the dashboard, not for the IPC, but I've seen other dashboards that they have created. And I think that once we put the dashboard, it would create excitement in Israel-Palestine. People would be wanting to know what districts they belong to. This is a completely different concept that, so they can see, well, wow, I belong to district number 47. Here it is on the map. And I can vote for a Palestinian. I can vote for an Israeli. It's a different concept. So a lot of what we are hoping for, it would be created during the election, during the registration, quite frankly. Maysar? You need to unmute.
Yeah,
Please
you're
unmute.
muted.
There we go. Considering the nature of the current Israeli government, I suspect their reaction when this becomes public is going to be extremely negative. And my question is, will we have a plan in place to counter that negativity and reach the Israeli public?
Can you clarify your question, please?
Will we have a plan on how to counter the negative reaction which is expected from the current Israeli government in order to reach the public and explain to the Israeli public what this project is all about and how that would be of benefit to them?
Okay, put yourself in the shoes of the Israeli government. Just put yourself in that shoes. And you see there is a publicity of regarding an election for a federal government. You have a conundrum now, right?
Right.
Do you oppose it? And what would be the consequences of opposing it? Do you support it? And what would be the consequences of supporting it? Or do you mock it? I mean, to assume that they are going to publicly be against it, I think is the wrong assumption.
To assume that they don't, it's a wrong assumption.
Yeah,
Of course they will.
I would say one in
no,
three.
I think
One
that,
in three.
but let's assume that they would be against it. Let's assume that they would publicly come up against it. That would be the best thing for the IPC. The best thing is if the Israeli government or the Palestinian government or any other major, or the American government or whatever, would be against it, because it would be, first of all, giving it publicity, which we desperately need. We need publicity. And also, it would validate the need for a federal government and would expose these governments as incapable of giving peace to their own people. It would open up a floodgate of questions that would be huge publicity for the IPC. So if you ask me, Maysar, I would say they are going to be quiet. They're not going to say a word about it. And they'll just, if anything, if it comes up, they'll just mock it. But they're not going to be saying one word in favor of it or against it.
Oh, no problem. They will call us all terrorists. You don't know. And
What they'll do. No, but the thing is, there's a history and a pattern for this. If you look at, for example, the way, I believe it's called the Geneva Accords, like the Geneva Accords in 2004, how when it was made, they just buried it. It's a joke. The way they look at, for example, like Eretz Lekulam, Land for All, these initiatives do exist, Maysar, and they do exist in the country. And I think the only issue is that we have a very, I mean, my opinion, what I think would happen is that the government will basically, they have the government that exists as it is now. I'm not going to say it's because it's a right-wing government, because it's always been this. They have the mandate of the people to be hostile towards something like this. unfortunately. So I think that
Yeah.
the Israeli public really needs to be worked on. I think the Palestinian Authority would love this. I think they would open it with arms open, and they would say, yes, let's move forward.
I agree.
But I think that anybody who runs, I mean, if you look at, for example, the polls in Israel, Netanyahu is still the leading candidate against all his other opponents. He's got 42% solid against all of them, leading at least 7%. I think Eisenkot was the one that was closest to him with 7% in the last poll. And so I think that, as long as these politicians respond to their public, it's not the public responding to the politicians. So when people say, let's blame the leaders, it's not the leaders, it's the people, because the Israelis vote. They actually do vote, and they actually do have a representative government. And unfortunately, it represents the society. So that society needs to be dealt with. And that's where the hostility is coming from.
I suspect that the Israeli government would argue that this is irrelevant. This is not in line with
Honestly, I think they would just look at this and they would, like Joseph, I agree with Joseph, they would mock it because they wouldn't see it as a threat.
yeah.
It's a very arrogant government. It's a very arrogant
know?
government. They
Yeah.
laugh at international law. They laugh at the United States. They laugh at everybody
Yeah.
because they're untouchable. So they would mock it and just say these are just some silly leftists or silly terrorist or some Islamist or communist or something. They'd make up something.
I agree.
But there is another issue in my mind. I think that the Israeli election, I think it's in October of this year, is going to be unsuccessful because no one in Israel is going to accept the election results, in my opinion. There is going to be, in my opinion, that's just my opinion, based on what I read and see in Israeli society, the election is going to create huge chaos in Israeli society, in my opinion. Netanyahu is not going to accept the election if he loses, and his opposition are not going to accept the election results if they lose. No one is going to accept transition of power one way or another, in my opinion. That's just my own personal opinion based on what I read and see, and I see the hatred and the dichotomy in Israeli society as very, very deep, and I just don't see them accepting the election. And I think there is a possibility that actually the election that we are conducting or proposing, people will start looking at it in the public, because our election would be an honest election based on a constitution. Our election would expose the Israeli election and the Palestinian election as being undemocratic, in my opinion. All right, guys, any other comments? We're just going to need to say goodbye, and hopefully we'll have another meeting. We will have constant meeting about the election process. Yeah, Daniel, go ahead. Ask your question.
Can I make one more quick comment, just as a number calculation?
Sure.
Okay, so this is not requiring or requesting you to make any changes in your system. It's just to suggest that if you decided to modify it ever so slightly to require multi-member districts, say a 5-member district, so that you have proportional representation within the district, I did some quick calculations.
We're not deciding multi-member district. Each district will have one person. That's the
okay. So you are. Here's the thing, just something to think about, because you haven't gone past your architecture has not yet gotten to the point where you would have a problem making this revision. But at this moment, you have the ability to make the revision if you decide that the word says worthwhile.
You're then talking about 300 districts with multi-members in each district.
That we're not talking about 1,500 districts. We're talking 300 divided by 5. So if you'll let me give me a minute, I can explain it really quickly. A 5-member district, a single member district where only the majority is represented, or maybe even the
Are
plurality.
you aware that the districts will have 52,000 people in each district?
In the United States, we have 350,000 people in a district.
No, I'm not talking about the United States.
Yeah, I
I'm
understand.
talking about there, 52,000 in each district.
Right. So
Are
if
you
you had
suggesting that we should have multi number of candidates elected in each and every district?
that's the parliamentary system, the way the parliamentary system works in every country of the world except England.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
Each district has one parliament or congressional member.
No, multi-member districts have multiple members, so that just to give you an example, if you have Party X that pulls 40% of the vote, and Party Y pulls 40% of the vote, and Party Z pulls 10% of the vote.
We don't have parties.
You don't call in Israel, they're not called parties. They are factions.
This is not Israel. This is Israel-Palestine, a parliament. We do not have parties. We have 300 parliamentary districts.
Right.
Each district will elect one person. We do not have multi-party districts.
Parties are, in the modern world, parties are the inevitable result of politicking. It always happens.
Okay. Once they decide to have parties, the next election, the parliament parties are private organizations. They're not governmental organizations. If they choose to have parties, then it's up to them. We are only conducting the first election. We don't have parties. We don't have multi-parties. We have 300 districts with 52,000 people in each district electing one person.
Right. And if you have one person who because you're having a one round vote, you will have one by definition, if you have a bunch of candidates and you have one round, then the person who wins will win by a plurality. It might be as little as 20% or 30%, meaning that 70% will be unrepresented, which means that it's a recipe for conflict, Joseph.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is something to talk about. It's not something to decide, it's something to talk about.
It may have to do with the legitimacy of each and every parliament member, but we don't really have a way to take care of each and every possible scenario. I agree with you that there may be districts with very little voters. I agree with you. And that's why the election committee will have the option to extend the election in each and every district in order to meet the threshold.
That's not the subject I'm talking about. I understand that's a reasonable thing to do, but it's not what I'm talking about. Right. I just suggest that you give some consideration to this, before you make hard architectural decisions.
Daniel, have you read the Constitution?
You mean of the IPC?
Yeah.
Well, I've heard I haven't read the entirety. In the various meetings I've attended, I've heard a whole bunch of pieces of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Sean, do you have a question?
No,
all right.
No, I don't.
Any other questions? Shlomo.
Several candidates. Okay, you have region X or Tel Aviv or whatever, and there are like several people want to represent it. How do you decide? How do we decide which one who will represent this area?
So in an area that has in big cities like Tel Aviv, like Gaza, like Jerusalem, let's say Tel Aviv has 450,000 people. Okay. It would have approximately, if you divide 450 by 52,000, that's about 8. So they will have multiple candidates, and those 8 that get the most number of votes that meet the threshold will be the 8th representative of the city of Tel Aviv.
Okay, so it will be more than one representative.
For the city of Tel Aviv, there will be 8 representatives. For the city of Jerusalem, there will be 20 representatives. For the city of Nes Ziona, there will be 1 representative.
How will you do the elections within Tel Aviv, Jerusalem? How do you?
Okay, so let's say you are in Tel Aviv. You put your name, and you're asked to upload your picture. Actually, it would have to be a live picture. The app will ask you to take a picture of yourself and to take a live picture of yourself. Meaning you have to move your head, and you may have to blink your eyes. You may have to say a word or two, that in order to make sure that you are a real person. And
Okay.
then you will have to upload your ID card, whether you are Palestinian or Israeli. There will be a 98% match between your personal
Okay,
picture.
but these are details. My question is that you will have to have elections within Tel Aviv and within Jerusalem.
No. I just got through telling you. If you live in Tel Aviv, you would put your name, your city, and then you will see that you have 20 candidates. And you will choose 1 candidate for the city of Tel Aviv. That's it.
Who is going to choose the candidate out of 20?
The voters.
So you need voting within Tel Aviv and voting. No, that's what you imply, no?
No. In the city of Tel Aviv, you will have, when it's time for you to vote, you will say, I live in Tel Aviv, and you will be given a choice to vote for president and for parliament. Now that you go to vote for parliament, you'll see that you have 20 candidates for parliament.
Why 20? Why? I mean, how do you get those 20? Those 20?
They self-register.
How about if you have 100 registered?
If you have 100, you'll have 100. They're self-registered. And you will have to decide one of the 100.
With 100 candidates, the winner will be 10 or 15%, and 85% will be unrepresented in your system.
Out of the 100 candidates, Tel Aviv will choose 20 candidates. And those 20 candidates that meet the threshold will be the representative of Tel Aviv.
Daniel, what do you think?
I don't think what I think is important at this point. It's like political theory is, and empirical history, on this, looking at hundreds of systems over the last 2 centuries, is pretty clear on the issue that there are things that can be done to mitigate these problems. There's always a tension between geographic representation and larger political representation. And the field of consociationalism, which is what you're striving for, what the IPC is in essence, it's a consociational attempt. And there's always an inherent tension in it. But if you either maximize geographic representation and minimize political representation, or vice versa, or you strive for some kind of arbitrary balance in between. And so it's just, this is something to have a conversation about before you settle on hard architecture, so that you can optimize and you can have people feel represented, which is important for your marketing. If they feel unrepresented, they're going to abandon the project. If they feel like their voices are heard because there's a representative structure, while still being close to their representative, it's like if you have a geographic district with 5 members in it, 5 ultimate members, and they're actually representative, but the district is geographically small enough that you have a chance of knowing your representative, then that's a kind of an optimum. It's a kind of an arbitrary optimum, but it's an optimization between geographic representation and political representation.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah.
All right. Sean, I can't hear you. You're muted.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. It was a productive meeting, and we'll see you in the next simulation. And hopefully we'll have another strategic meeting. And by that time, we'll have a lot more information. And okay. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.